All right, how's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right, so let me get all set up. I'm doing the live stream, but something has changed, and I'll kind of talk to you guys about that. But something changed, and which is why I think when we were talking about Genius Group, and Delusion Tracker was the first one to pick it up, but I'll kind of go over that when we get some more people in here. Let me make sure that it pushed out to the Discord. All right, there we go. What's up? How's it going, New York Giants? Yes, how are you, bud? Evening. All right. So what do we need to see? We need to see a couple things. Just pulling it out now. How's everyone doing? I see there's some new people coming in the room. Oh, we need to make sure people put things in the right section. So we'll tell Brooke. Main trading or ATER friends. All right. So, got a couple more people in here. Hustle's in here. What's going on? Aloha vibes. They just added an options chain for. Of course they did. Of course they did. Because there's money to be made here. They want to take retail's money. And that's not the only thing that changed. So GNS now has options. Yep, they just added options on it. Nothing's available yet, but this is going to be interesting. So this thing's definitely going to be a wild ride now. Because not only did that happen with the options, but we have this gap down here. I guess we could pull it up right here. We've got this gap down here. We've got a gap here as well. And not only that, but we also have... Is there a gap here or not? Let me just see if I can zoom in enough to actually see. It's not showing up there, but there definitely was a gap here. I don't think this wick touched all the way down. Yeah. So GNS can get crazier. It's got strikes up to 8. So this is what I'm going to tell you guys. With GNS, something changed, and I'm going to share it with you guys in a second. The shares outstanding increased, and I'm looking into how they did that, because the only thing I saw on Dilution Tracker earlier was they said remaining shares to be converted when issued, which was 3.5 million, right? But what may have happened was these things can be repaid in notes installments using share-based recent stock price. And so with this thing going up, they may have been able to unlock more shares out of it. I'm diving into that too, and I actually wrote the guy that runs the site, try to figure it out. But the shares outstanding jumped to like yesterday, I think, or maybe it was today, up to 37.75 million, and there's still those remaining 3.5. Now, obviously, when we were looking at it before, this thing was only 24 million shares. They were able to somehow use these notes convertible to unlock more shares. And I'm trying to figure that out because so obviously that's going to probably influence also the balance sheet, but what's really interesting is because this is already unlocked now, it has increased the liquidity inside the stock. So that's how I think they've been able to kind of attack this thing down, was because they got a whole bunch more shares, and now the float's not as small. Vortex has not updated this, but it's going to be an interesting ride now, especially because options have been introduced. So I was listening to Booksy. Booksy put out some TA that he went over with me during his live stream. So what he kind of covered was this, and I'll go to more of maybe I'll do like a 2-hour chart. So what he essentially was showing me was, or maybe should I go to a lower time frame? Let me try, like, maybe we'll zoom out a little bit. Okay. So normally, if we were doing this like more like, I guess, like a Wyckoff, he was kind of just showing me, like, if you were to basically pretend like this was the upper, let me lock it and we change the color too. Let's make this, I don't know, there, and maybe here. Does that look straight? No, one side's too low. Bring the whole thing down a little bit. And then you would have the other ones down here in this range. So a very important line is going to be this area right here to see if we get a bounce. And that's where the gap starts, right? Let's make this like blue or something. What stands out? That's... I don't know. Pick a color. It's not a good color. Try that one. Kind of blends in with the top there, but how do we know that they aren't synthetic shares thanks to options? So what I think has happened is this. So he wrote here that the outstanding shares now 37 million, likely portion of convertible notes have been repaid using shares through the installment payment option, which must have been buried in like the IPO stuff. Currently unknown how many convertible notes remain. But after all the dilution is said and done, that's what he thinks it's going to be, roughly. So what's going to happen is it's just going to increase the liquidity, which means that shorts are going to have more ammo. Sorry, guys. I sold a 250 put on BBBY and crashed the stock today. Oh, poor Bed Bath & Beyond. They should have sold Bye-Bye Baby. Honestly. Like, the problem is it's the only thing of value. But at the same time, it's like... But going back to this, yeah, so they've increased the liquidity. It just means it's going to take a little bit more to to actually, now here's the thing about options, right? They can push this thing down now if they want to. Oh, someone else logged into my... Someone's hacked into my stuff, apparently. All right. Yeah, so this is going to be... I'm going to label this with the text. So this is going to be a pivot point. That's probably fine. Probably put it the same color as what this one is. Tarifa hacked into me. Yep, GNS has options now, and not only that dirty, but it actually just got more liquidity from those notes convertible. Apparently, there must have been something that was like... Let's see if we can find out where it was. They had something in here. Through the private placement, I'm guessing, but let's see if we can find... So this is something that they hid in the IPO stuff. Better off buying Disney stock in anticipation of the new transgender whale. Yeah, the float got a bit bigger. So I'm just trying to figure out where they hid this. Notes. You should read retire perspectives and related notes. Those are just notes, though. I want notes convertible. Footnotes, notes receivable. All right, here we go. The largest items in this were the issuance of convertible notes at $8.5 million. The right to use liabilities. Yeah, so, I mean, the question is this. Obviously, GNS is in a better spot now because they're going to be able to, probably raise money at some point when this thing does move up again. So, at that point, then we have to figure out, okay, what's the stock actually worth, right? Because this is the financing things. Let's see. Okay. Here's Sean. So Sean said, we even missed this, but there was a hidden clause in the notes that allowed the company to repay it with shares based off an average 10-day stock price, which is why where it came from. It's not exactly clear how much was converted at and what price. It wasn't disclosed. So does that mean... Oops. have more shares of the company. So we're talking to Sean from Dilution Tracker, who's the CEO that started this website. I won't blow up his spot too much, but apparently they even didn't see it because it was hidden in some sort of like back little clause. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so this is going to be a critical level right here. We'll put it up. This one right here is this pivot point. It's bounced off there close to 3 times. Now it's coming back to this level. Now they've added options and all that stuff too. So, but yeah. I mean, those guys, this is what they do, and they even missed it. So the question is, who has those now? And yeah, I guess that's the other question to ask, right? And now who control of those shares? Okay. All right. So anyway, but yeah, it just means that this stock got just a little more interesting because liquidity came up now, and now they've added options, which means that this thing can now get, they can hide probably short or like stuff in the options chains, but also it means that this thing can build up over time. And what that means is if, for example, people start stacking a bunch of in the money calls at some point, and those things are still above a certain price, then what can happen is the gamma exposure can send the stock even higher up. So lock up those shares, please. Yep. And the other thing we have to look at is if retail did, really heavily come in on this and they're all holding a bunch of stuff. Now, we have to assume that some of the retail got shaken out during this, like, some retail sold here. We can tell that. There was profit taking on each of these days. But what's going to be interesting, because this is the 15-minute, so let's move to like an hour, right? You can see right here, there's a whole like patch of liquidity, and this is where we should find at least. The question now I'm like asking myself is, with options now coming out, the IV's got to be high on them. So the question is like, do you wait till it comes down a bit to like buy options? Because I mean, there's going to be people who start stacking them right away, but I'm really curious to see initially what the volume looks like tomorrow when these options open up, because they're going to probably, if they can, hide some, long dated stuff that they don't want to deal with now. And they can create synthetics with, obviously, you couple a call and a put together, and actually I have a video on that if anyone's curious on how that works. But essentially what happens is you pair a call and a put together, and it creates what basically is an equivalent of a share, because like it acts almost like a share, except for like there's like a small difference. Like I'm trying to remember who put that video out, but I know I put it up in the Discord once. To make a synthetic share. Yeah. So essentially, and this is like the math on it, but basically you short a call, you put a long put on, and it basically moves within like a millicent of like, how a regular one would be created. But like you basically pair these two together and it creates a synthetic share. And I think this was the video I may have put. And it was, Yeah, it was the Plain Bagel, and actually he's a smart guy. I actually like his channel a lot. But essentially, what ends up happening is they're able to marry these two together, and basically, if they need to produce a share, they kind of get away with. Yeah, he's kind of explaining it here. So you have it expire on the same day, and then it basically moves the same way a regular share would, minus this little difference right here. So they're like slightly off, but they can basically create these things. Yeah, the only way you can get away from all this stuff is if you were to DRS. Oh no, there's going to be options on this thing. That Hustle, I would imagine you're going to see a ton of people buying options. Now, they may not do it right away. They may wait. But there's going to be retail that FOMO's in. There's going to be, but I think the most of the volume that's going to come in, like right off the bat, is going to be these big people who are shorting. They're going to buy up a ton of long dated like blocks, and they're going to basically create a bunch of synthetic positions, is what my guess is. And here's the thing, like, they all know this can happen. Like, if you what's the is it OCC or CO? What is the options regulatory agency? It's like the no, it's not this one. It's like OC something. CBOE, is that right? Chicago Board of Options Exchange or something like that. They're the ones that are in charge of like all the options. Yeah, these guys are the ones that like regulate options. Right, but if no one buys calls on the other side equals no synthetic. No. You can do this like manually. You don't need someone on the other side. So literally they can make up shares on the spot and then show that to like they'll say no, we have a locate. This is the whole like this is where the stock market just gets absolutely dirty because they're probably failing to deliver. So what they do is they create these synthetics and basically say, "Oh no, we have the shares." So that way they can reset FTDs because essentially what they're doing is creating the ability to get the share at that price. They don't need anyone on the other side. So it doesn't matter if retail does this or not. The reason why they opened up the options chains is because they can now create synthetics. Like, doesn't mean that this thing is anywhere near over. It just means that they know, like, I mean, there's money to be made. Oh yeah, it's absolutely criminal, and the CBOE knows this. Like, so does the SEC. Like, everybody knows that this is a thing. They essentially can create shares out of the options chains and then reset their FTDs. Even though they never located a share to short, they still were able to. So, like, this thing just got a lot more interesting, is what I can tell you. I mean, the question is, how far are they going to push this down? Because this thing's bleeding right now. So the question is it going to find support here, or is this going to be one of those, it can literally go down and go sub 1 again? I mean, because they're going to hammer this thing. They want to get retail out. The question is, are they going to do it? I think there's going to be support around the like low twos, like somewhere when if this thing gap fills and hits this 223 line, I do think that this is going to be where they find support in this range. So let's see. So that's why they can high frequency trade with shares they don't have. Yeah, because they can always buy up options and marry them up and then basically I don't see a lot of GNS on social media. Do you think they could get it sub 1? I mean, there is a gap down here, so it is possible that they hammer this thing down. Here's what's happened, right? So you had this huge spike of, like, just, I mean, you can see these are, how many million shares was this? Let me go daily. So this thing spiked up to 270 million, then 250 million, then like 100 and something million, and then it's calmed down in the last couple of days, right? So you can see 270. This one was 250. This was 100 something. Then it was like 70 something, and then there was almost no volume today, which is also why they're able to. Because right now retail is either holding or they're selling, so they're shaking the tree hard. All right, so the question is, are we going to find support here, or is the support going to be around here? I mean, this gap it'd be healthier if this gap fills to go back up. And technically, I mean, it would be healthy if this gap filled, but that's pretty far down. And I mean, if you are somebody that bought it like $6, then, that's a lot to ask people holding that long as this thing bleeds off. Like trades said, best to ride with a short term and then pick up an entry for long term. Yeah, I mean, like if it was to dip down here, then it would be fine to go long on this thing, because I think at that point it's probably, I mean, we do the math on this if you want. I guess the other question is, how much money do they gain from this ore? All right, let's see. We can go into BUR, or formerly known as Prague, in a second. We're just covering this right now. But this is an area, and you know what I should do is should take a look, because I'm imagining this area of liquidity was probably pretty well done. This area of liquidity, though, is not. And you can tell right here, this is an area of liquidity as well that has not been explored a ton, whereas this one has been, and so has this one. So it looks to me like there's going to be probably days of consolidation in this range, and possibly in this one if it doesn't get too much more. At that point right now, then most people are going to be pretty upset. The question is, let's take a look at. That's why Earthium asked about. Wait, what was it? Yeah, I mean, there's a gap down here. I'm pretty sure this never filled, because the wick's there and this day. So it gapped up this day. I don't know why it's not showing up on gap detector, but I know it gapped up because I was trying to get a fill at 47 cents the day it gapped up. It was this day, right? Let me see if I can find a better chart, because I can't see on that one. Give me a second. Let me just see if I can get maybe like another chart up. Let's go GNS. And I want to do on the daily. Why is this thing weird? Okay, this is the daily? Yep, the 1 day. Okay. Was there a gap there? What did we close this day? You know what? We're going to have to look up the history. Let's look up the history real quick. GNS closing prices. Okay. Let's go back. So we closed 41. The next day, the low was the 41. So that's fine. Then it closed at 47 cents. And it opened at 60 cents, and its low was 50 cents. So, yeah, there's a 3-cent gap down on the 17th. So, if we go back here, there was a gap on the 17th, which was right here. Was there a gap? That might have gone down far enough to cover that. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking. This area of liquidity here-ish has not really been explored. So there is a possibility that, you know, I don't know if it's going to go down that far. It all depends on how motivated retail is. Let's pull that up a little bit. Oops. And that's Illustrator. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so what day was that? That was on the 17th. Let's match it up. So the 17th was when it went up to, so it closed 47 cents, it opened 60 cents, hit a low of 50, and closed. So yeah, that was it. I mean, because it was getting no volume, and then it got volume here. The 4 million shares was the first step, and then I entered the play this day on the 17th. And then here you had the 6.28, that was the high, and then it got nailed down. You're still getting way more volume than you typically would on a stock this size. So this is going to be interesting now that they open up options chains too, because now you have a market maker that's introduced to this. So all right. So we need to find out. Okay, if they now have 37 million, right? Because that's what we said was probably about 37.75 million. Okay. We said 75 million. All right, so this is now the new shares outstanding, right? And we know that Sean Rose back. The company would have reduced some of that debt, and the debt holders got the shares and likely already sold. Okay, thanks. So it just reintroduced liquidity into the markets, which is what gave them ammo. Okay. So let's crunch these numbers now. So that's what we know there. Now we said that we know that Roger owns 3.9 million, right, by himself, right? So that would give you oh wait, there's a couple other insiders too. I might have to bring up Discord to grab the Bloomberg information. I talked to Sean. They missed it in the pre-IPO paperwork themselves. Okay. We're going into GNS, right? And then we're looking at the Bloomberg information. All right. I guess we can just be accurate. So we're saying 37,750, 37 million minus the 9363582. Now it's possible, you know, they have purchased more, but they just haven't reported it. I don't know, but that's what we're looking at. Minus 776,658 minus 49350 minus 263,592 minus 83016. Okay, and then 6,300 minus 6,000 minus 6,000. All right, so that's our new free float. Now, or sorry, I should say float. And then free float would be minus if there are institutions that hold this thing, which would be these guys here, which is Jane Street and Chase, JP Morgan Chase, UPS, and Morgan Stanley. All right. I should make a spreadsheet for this. Give me a second. I'm going to make a copy of this. Make a copy. We're going to call this one GNS. Okay. So we're going to change this GNS Genius Group. All right, so reported data, total shares outstanding. That's what we think. We have the ownership now off Bloomberg, which was, shoot, now I have to probably, I'm going to put it up here for now. I probably went in the middle, but there we go. I'm just going to have to do it this way. All right, so back to the Bloomberg one. So we're going to take Earthium said, I heard Citadel got a 9.6 million slap on the wrist for spoofing Korean markets. They got booted from Chinese markets. Citadel got booted from China's markets. They can't trade in China. So it's not, yeah. I don't know if they got kicked out of all Asian markets, but I know they got kicked out of China. Citadel is what's wrong with the markets in a nutshell. Like, they were allowed to grow out of control, and now they are this behemoth of a problem, and nobody's touching them, and they need to go away. And don't worry, somebody will come up behind them and what is going on here? Why is that not? Let me try this again. Plus 776 658 43 26 83 016. All right, and then we skip down to 6,300 plus 6,000 plus 6,000. Okay. Now, go. That equals that, so that's good. All right. So that's the lendable free float right now. If we want to do this the right way, what we can do is we can go back into the Bloomberg, and this time we fill out what we see for institutional ownership, which is not that high, but we can do it anyway. We would take 52,503 plus 32,727 plus 6,979 plus 310 plus. All right. Yeah, it's only like 104. We have no idea about this. We can erase all of this and clear off that. All right. So right now, we can take the Ortex numbers and try to at least take a look and see what they look like. Now, I don't trust these 100%, but it's going to get interesting. All right, so currently they think there are 1.8 million shares shorted. Let's take a look. Because that number was based off of the float only being 10 million. That's what I can just eye and see. So, yeah, I mean, at this point right now, we'll have to just see what they actually think this number has grown to. Still lending out a good amount. Not as high as yesterday, but there you go. We'll have to get an official report to kind of see where they are, because this is all estimates. We have no idea where the actual legitimate short interest is at. But that's probably why shorts hit it at the peak of the market, why the short lending went up so high on the day it spiked to 6, was because the shorts got in probably at the top of it. They must have known that there was the dilution happening, so they jumped on it. That's my guess. I mean, technically, if this number is correct, and we won't know anything until they give us a baseline, because until we actually get a what's it called? I guess what's the best way to put it? When we actually get the exchange, the official reports, they'll have a better sense of where they're at. Because prior to that, these guys had only like 0.34% shorted. So like 36K shorts was the official reported. Now, granted, there can be nakeds, but what did you say, 13F? Did they have a new 13F that got filed? Yep. Let's see. I'm going to pull this over real quick. So if I have to log in. There. All right. Oop, that's the wrong one. That's our Genius Group. Is this it? That's the GNS group. Let's try it this way. Genius Group. Where's the ticker, though? They don't want people finding this thing. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. How come they're not showing it? It was up this morning. I know for a fact it was up this morning because I looked at it. I took a screenshot. Is this it? Owners. Or maybe I should do insiders to make sure it's the same. Do they have insiders? Nah, this isn't right. That's the GNS group. Where is Genius? This is obnoxious. Why isn't it showing it? They literally had it up this morning. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there was any information, extra information we could find on here, but I don't see anything. Like the ticker's not even there. You see it? Wait, right here. Where's right here? Here's the Genius Group, right? This is filings, though. This is not the ticker. So these are all SEC filings. That's the Genius Sports Group. But like, these are the SEC filings. I want to see the actual ticker. Like, I literally added it up there, and that's so weird. Like, they had this up this morning, and now it's not even on there. You have it? Let's see. Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so they're saying off exchange volume via dark pool, short volume ratio. Not a ton of shorts. Cost to borrow is still high. Here we go. Yeah, they're still shorting it. These are, so basically it's been shorted over 50% a lot since the 18th. So most of the volume that's coming through is actually short volume, even though it didn't make a pretty big move. Yeah, so they have not updated this either. That's the problem with Ortex and with Thompson King. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. We're just trying to crunch the numbers on GNS real quick just to double check our work. All right. Does this show ownership? Owners right here. Owners. No, I want owners here. Institutional ownership. Not showing much there. Genius Group did move up to number 4 on this thing. ATER was the second most sold to security. I really wanted to see if we could find... Yeah, it doesn't show the insiders. I don't see it. So I'm going to say, I think it's safe to say that Bloomberg is probably the best that we can do. And at this point right now, they don't have institutional ownership of any significant level except for the stuff we saw in Bloomberg. So, yeah. But we won't know until obviously much later. But is the math on that right? Just trying to figure out how they got to... Because the thing I read said 11 something million right? Was it in this one? We'll go up here to the top. Minus. It's still about 3. Yeah, it's, and let me guess, if we subtract 3.5 million off that, it's still not exactly right. Something doesn't line up directly on that, but I'll try to get more information from Sean tomorrow, trying to figure out what's going on with that. Just see if there's anything in here. This was the extraordinary general meeting. Same thing. All right. Yeah, there's nothing else new. So, all right, we're just going to have to go off of what we saw and then kind of just start from here. So, at this point right now, we have to assume that the float is roughly around 26 million, 26.6 million. Still a small float. So that right there should be 26 divided by that should give us the percentage. Okay. I have to change all this around. Okay. Well, at least we have a sense now going forward. I'll update it inside the Discord. That the new float on GNS likely still a small float. Okay. So we'll close that for now, and I think I promised I'd look at BIOR, which was the former PROG, for anyone that doesn't remember. If I remember correctly, these guys are out of money, right? They just did the reverse split, right? Is that right? Okay. All right. Let's look at this real quick. Okay, big gap up there at 33 to 38. Had some volume there on these 2-day spikes, and now it's been kind of consolidating in this range. Random, huh? What? Yeah, so we just updated the GNS stuff. Apparently, there was stuff that even the dilution tracker missed, which was there were apparently like some sub-clause within the pre-IPO stuff. That means that the float on GNS is different, random. So they were able to apparently, and then I ATER friends too. Okay, so let's look at this one real quick. Let's move it to the daily. Do I already have it on the daily? Put it on 1 day. There we go. Okay, so got 2 big days of volume there. Huge spike in volume. Made a decent move, right, in those 2 days. Was sitting at 205. Moved up to a high of, what is that? Let me zoom in more. 205 to, what's that, 8? Is that right? Based Nation. ATER going anywhere or sell? So I think it's all obviously up to you. I'll get back to prog in a second. I just want to show you this. We've kind of covered this in the past, but I'll just go ahead and do it for you real quick. All right. Oops, that needs to go here. So ATER can go up, but it's not going to probably squeeze anymore, because what ended up happening was dilution happened at a really low level, which gave up a huge amount. So what's going to end up happening here is they got pushed all the way down here to, like, what was the low, 67 cents or something like that. Let me zoom out more. I don't know if I can do it this way or if I can move it around here. So this was our low. It was like 67 cents. And what happened was it's now moved up into this range. So it's going to be in this range for a little bit. And the question is, if the SPY does dip and crash down, we could revisit. There's a gap right here, I think at like 97 cents or something like that, if I remember correctly. Maybe it was $1. But there was a small gap that we left. Let me have to move it over here now. See, I think it closed down. Yeah, it was 97 cents, and then it gapped up the next day. So there is a gap here, and I probably should see if I can chart. Let me see if I can put something in there. I just want to make like a box. I don't want that specifically, but let's see. Rectangle. So I'm going to put this in there. Let me adjust it a little bit. Bring it down to there. Okay. So that's where the gap is. And I'll extend this out because we may have to revisit it down the line. Short squeezes are a myth. Yeah. It's Marine, by the way, not a soldier. All right. So what ended up happening was this. When the dilution happened, it dropped us down here. They diluted at a really bad level. I was not a fan of that. So we've taken this huge kind of like move up. In fact, I should just take that off because that trend line's not even a trend line anymore. It just kind of rocketed. So what I think is going to happen is this. You've now pushed up. It's consolidating in this range right here. If the SPY tanks, this is going to probably come back to fill this area of liquidity. And here's what you have to understand, Base Nation. So this is what this blue line right here, this blue line right here is what Armistice paid for all these shares. So they paid $190 for these shares and $2 for these $2 warrants. Up here as well, on this blue line, Armistice paid $2.90 for these 320 warrants. So for them to be profitable on them pushing it up, you need to be above this line. And we're way down here right now. So at some point, what's going to end up happening is this. If Ethereum has, for example, a good earnings on this date or in the future when maybe it's down here further, you may see them decide to cover a bit and then kind of like reassess. They're holding on to the call me Izzy. Oh, hey, what's up, man? Yeah, so what you're going to probably see is this. You're going to see if there's is a good earnings, they could pump it up, right, to try to unlock the warrants. The warrants are unlockable. These warrants right here are unlockable this day. These warrants up here at this line are unlockable now. But obviously the price isn't there yet. So the question's going to be, what's their plan to basically get from here all the way up there so they can actually profit? Because anything above this line is going to be profitable, and then anything above this line is going to be profitable. So that's what's going on right now with Ethereum. Is down here, they're not making any money. They might be making money on shorts, but they're not making any money on anything to the upside. So you have to keep that in mind. Reminder, there is this gap down here, and I'm going to extend that all the way over until we fill it. So I'm waiting till this gap fills before I buy any more shares, because I do think if the SPY does do a rug pull at some point, this is where I'd rather start entering down in this range versus buying up here. So random, I don't think Armistice is technically upside down, because I think these things right here are their hedge, right? So I think they're short. So I think that right now Armistice has been short on Ethereum for quite some time, and they've gone to them and purchased warrants basically as their insurance policy to make sure that nothing weird happens. I need to bring that more like straight. And this one too. Was I drunk when I did this last time? There, that a little better? It still looks weird. Good enough for now. All right. Extending it out. There we go. So I'm pretty sure that Armistice has been short on Ethereum for I don't know how many months, but at some point they may want to take profits if the thing can turn around and then push it up again to make some money and then exit and then redo it again. Unless the Ethereum really turns it around, and then in that case they may go and just pump it and, stay in or whatever. But they need to get up here, though, for them to even be profitable on these warrants. And they still have a bunch that they need to basically get rid of before they can even touch the warrants, because they already are almost maxed out. So back to Bjorn. Okay. So let's take a look real quick. All right, so that's the cloud there. So it's just entering up towards the Ethereum cloud. This could have been the spring, and now it's going to consolidate. If we kind of like think about this like from Wyckoff, it would be like here-ish. Oops. And probably here-ish. And then on the upside, I would say this might have been the point here, roughly. probably need to lower it, but roughly there-ish. And there-ish. All right, so you had this run up. It hit basically the top of that line and then has been bleeding. It's gone down here and then it broke below. This would have been the spring. So what you would see now is probably some accumulation in this with some like kind of bouncing before heading back up. Now, I don't know their financials, so I don't know. We do have our earnings coming up right there on the 16th of March. When did you get into Ichima clouds? Not really. I mean, I just threw it up there just to have some reference of like liquidity and just trying to see what's going on. Let's extend these out too. So I think on this one that we would probably see this could be possibly the spring down here. That could be a spring. Put it in yellow. So maybe this is the spring, and then this is going to be, and we'll pull up a chart of Wyckoff real quick. Wait, I might have one saved. It's been a while since I had to do this, because we haven't really been in, where would I put it? Just the one with the spring. Here we go. All right. So we're pretending that basically you would have had the one down move here, back up, down, and this would be the spring. And so it could come down, bounce. It may want to retest this right here, which is about roughly 329. Come back up, and it's going to maybe touch it one more time and then head back up and see if it can break through this area. And then this middle ground is going to be where liquidity is probably, if I'm just looking at the chart from right here, there's not a ton of liquidity so this whole area needs to be filled in, especially like in this range. But it may take a while before it does that, because that would be a pretty big move. So, I mean, I would imagine it's going to consolidate down here, bouncing around until it hits earnings. And then at that point, we would have a better indication of where this thing's going to go. So I think this is more of they're going to probably bounce it in this range for a while until we actually see what happens on earnings, and then the shorts will probably change what they're doing. Is there a lot of short interest on this one? I know they have a lot of shares outstanding because they were the ones that diluted when they were trying to. That's right, they did the reverse split. So what caused this big spike here? Was that the reverse split? All right, so they think it's two. Now, is this one of those stocks where they haven't updated everything? What's the shares outstanding now? Is it really 8.93? You think it's more of an accumulation? That's possible. I mean, let's pull it up again. So you think this is more of an accumulation point? It's possible this is just like you're going to bounce there. The spring would be farther down, but I mean, it went down to a low of 197 before jumping up to a high of, what was that? Do I need to bring that up a little bit? I think that because the offset between the high and the low. I mean, that was this was on the reverse split, right? That's where the split happened right here. 25 to 1. That's right. What was this one before then? It was a couple, was it like 100 million or something like that? I don't know. I'm tired. All right. Let's take a look at what they're doing. So they're running out of cash, though, because they're still burning a lot of cash here. So, I mean, that gives you basically... I mean, that's like a quarter. So they need to raise money. And that's why they have this. Okay. So I think this is what's going on with it. So because they're out of money, they are going to be raising cash with an ATM and diluting. So I don't know where this thing's going, but I can tell you right now, if they have an active ATM right now, and in addition to that, they also have a need for cash, this is going to end up with dilution. So you may be right there, Random. I was going to say, I don't know if this is ready to run. This is probably something that's going to bleed more, potentially, just because the sheer amount of dilution. I don't know how much they're going to raise, but at this point right now, it looks like they need to raise quite a bit. If they're burning 17.8 million in cash, right, a quarter. I mean, I would think they want at least a year. Yeah, that's. I'm curious if they're going to do another like RDO, if they're really going to just try to. Yeah, there's RDO right there that happened and they've already burned through that. So, yeah, they got 32 million shares at less than 10 million. That's a horrible, like, yeah, it's going to be a while and they're going to dilute. So I don't see this one going super far right now. If they get some great news, then sure, but like there's a ton of dilution on the table. I mean, you're talking about like an additional, there's 8.77 million shares outstanding right now. The ATM right now is 18 million by itself. So you're talking about like over doubling your float just off the ATM. And that's if they get it at decent prices. If they start diluting and they need to keep diluting and they don't like let it breathe, it's going to get pushed down. So interesting. I didn't even know BuzzFeed was public. Did you guys know that? They're not profitable, though. SPAC warrants. Oh, they were a SPAC. All right. And then what was the other one I was supposed to look at? There was one before your G whatever. And can you look at Zomedica? I don't know what the ticker is. Zomedica. Zom. Okay. Big float. Like almost 1 billion shares. They're fine on cash, but they've already done most of their dilution, it looks like. They left a gap here, a pretty good sized gap. This is another. They're probably going to have to do a reverse split, aren't they? How long have they been out of compliance? For a while. All right, so $1 is. I'm just going to put it on. It's not perfect, but. So they've been out of compliance essentially since June of 2021. Is that right? How are they still listed? Yeah, I think this is going to be a reverse split candidate, to be honest with you. Because do you know anything as far as that goes? Because from what I'm looking at right now, I mean, they just are getting walked down. They had that massive move up here, right? But this is back in 2021, so I don't know. I mean, I know you can kick the can for a while, but like, they should have been sent a compliance thing, and I don't see how they have gone this long without becoming compliant, without at least a plan. So I would think that they're going to do a reverse split pretty soon. And at this point right now, I don't like that they left a gap right here. I think they're going to come down and fill this gap again. So they've got earnings coming up, though. So, I mean, it's all going to base off this earnings, how it goes, to see what happens with the stock. So it looks like it's going to happen on March 1st. So that's kind of what I would be expecting, is this thing kind of to bleed off maybe. It could consolidate, but I mean, with earnings, they may hammer it on right before earnings and then, or right after earnings. And you may see, you know, it fill this gap here. All right. Dirty wants GRFX. getting tired. All right. Small float. That's good. There's been some dilution. Not like a ton. Low cash burn. That's good. So they've got a little bit under 2 years left. So that's always good. They don't have the holders on there. Just reading. So they got some news, I guess. That's what basically made it run. So they got the news, or they just got the news, or is this just they're showing the news for today? I need to go back a couple days to see why it. Under the partnership agreement, plans to establish purification plant. So they're tied to EV. They produce 10,000 metric tons of graphite, which is used in a lot of electronics and car and space and some other stuff. Interesting. Okay. I mean, they're not profitable yet, but like I don't see any like glaring warts on this thing. Except for they're getting close to dipping below $1. But overall, it's not. I mean, they've got like 2 years of clearance, and it doesn't look like they have any dilution lined up immediately, right? Because that was the offering right there, and that happened in August of last year. All right, random wants CTRA, Quarter Energy. They're cash flow positive. That's a nice, refreshing change. Wait, what? Why are all these... What is going on with this thing? This is interesting. All right. Let's take a look a little bit deeper. They have some departure of directors and certain officers. What's this? They appointed a Thomas Jordan as its CEO and chairman of the board. In accordance to a merger. A merger. What was the merger? Okay. Have they already merged? Is that why this is all messed up? $18 million shares outstanding. Something's weird here. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to do it this way. No, not notes, sorry. Shares outstanding. Is that supposed to be 779 million? Yeah, so 788 million shares outstanding. What was it? CTRA. I do have our earnings coming up. So they're estimating revenue close to $2 billion. I do think it's possible that energy takes a run, depending on... I probably need to do more research on this, to be honest with you, because this is actually like a legit company. It's not just like a quick glance. I'd probably need to dive into all their balance sheets and like go over it. But yeah, remind me tomorrow, random. Let's go over this tomorrow inside like the war room or something. But yeah, this could be interesting as far as like a longer term, you know. Okay. I need to get off here. I'm getting real tired. Johnny wanted Casa. We'll do it one more time. I think we did it the other night. All right, Cosmos Health. Oh, bias or base. Izzy wanted to know about that one. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have to like dig into it because that one's an actual real company. It's not just like a small cap that I can just eye by the chart or the dilution. So let's pull this up one last time. All right. This is the one that we said they've already diluted most of the stuff like already. They do have a little bit of ATM left and some warrants, a couple notes convertible, but they do have cash, which is good. So it's not like in dire straits at this point. Float's still small. They amended this back in December, right? Total current assets around 40 million. Liabilities 45 million. But that's like a year ago. More than a year ago, right? That was going into beginning of 2022. Was this just the yearly that I pulled up maybe? Here's a quarter. Wait, did they do a split on this stock? They had to have, right? Because this was saying that the float was 10 million. So Cosm must have had a reverse split, right? Yep, there it is. 25 to 1. Because here in this filing, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was 84 million right there. So if you do the math on that, you take 84,184,905 divided by 25. That would give you about a 3 million share float. Then do they dilute on top of that? Because they did 25 to 1, right? That's what I saw. 25 to 1 split. So if you took that amount of shares outstanding, divided by 25, they should have only had 3 million, but they must have diluted on top of it to get it back up to 5. Or sorry, 10. Okay. I mean, you can buy and hold something like this, right? And they're not burning a ton of cash, and they have plenty of cash right now. Now, they've also diluted, but they've got a little bit left on this ATM if they needed to raise any more money, but I don't think they do, unless they just want to shore it up. But, I mean, yeah. I don't think it's. I think it's safer than a lot of the other ones, just because it's not immediately running out of cash. So that's what I tell you about Cosmos. Is it's safer than a lot of the squeeze plays that I've seen, just because they do have enough cash on hand that they're fine for a while, even though they aren't cash positive. There's tons of small caps that aren't. So, yeah, there you go. All right, I'm gonna jump off here. I'm getting tired, but you guys have a great evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in the Discord. If you're new and you stuck with us this long, then I'll drop the link to the Discord if anyone wants that. You can join us, researching, and come join our merry band of retail investors. All right, here we go. Generate link, copy, and there we go. Night, random. Night, guys. You guys have a great evening, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Misfits.